Okay, so all of you were sent home with watercolor palettes, which might look kind of similar to mine. In those palettes, there's a brush that should already be in there. It comes with the pack. And then you'll need just a small cup of water to have, and I have mine sitting here on my watercolor palette lid. So what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of like color block. Okay, so like if I want this section red, then I'm just going to paint it red, and I'm just going to do green. So I'm not going to worry so much right now about, shading and highlighting and stuff like that. I'm going to do that with my color pencils later. But we have to do the watercolor part before we can do that. Now, another thing about watercolor is wherever there's water, wherever it's wet, that's where the paint will go. So like for this one here, say I wanted to paint the polka dots, or, I might start with the outside region of the polka dots. So let's say I'm going to do it purple. So I've got my brush wet. I'm going to kind of activate my watercolor. I'm going to kind of go around the polka dots. I'm going to go around the edge wherever it touches the other ornaments. Okay, so take your time. Do a good job with these. You may have to keep coming back, like let things dry and then come back to it. Okay, my brush has still got quite a bit of color on it. It's not sounding scratchy, so I've still got enough paint on there. And you'll notice it's why it's called watercolor is because it's watered down color. You'll notice that, my paint's not very thick. I can still see, my pencil lines behind it. Okay, sometimes when we paint with watercolor, it gets a little too thick. If it's too thick, you've got too much paint on there, just completely rinse out your brush, just get clean water on there, and then just use what you have. And just kind of keep going back in and then smearing that around. You want to be able to have the color translucent so that when we do the shading with the colored pencil, it's not as difficult. And I'm just moving around these polka dots, okay? Just moving around my bulbs. Okay, and as I finish up this one, if I was to go back in the different color and paint those polka dots right now, those colors would just blend together. It'll just, wherever it's wet, so if I make these yellow, those yellow polka dots, that yellow is going to blend into that purple color. I don't want that. Okay, so I just want to make sure like most of that part's done. Maybe go back in and touch up areas that are a little too light. Make sure they're around the polka dots pretty good. And I'm going to leave that one alone. I'm going to clean my brush out and just swirl it, at the bottom of your cup. Okay, and then do a different bulb that's not touching that one. So like maybe I want to go to this one. Okay, because if you look, this is touching that purple. This bulb's touching that purple. This is touching that purple, and this is touching that purple. So I want to go to a totally different bulb. Okay, and I'm going to do that a different color. So maybe I want to do those parts green. Okay, so I cleaned out my brush really well. That way it doesn't, change the color of my palette. And maybe I want to do like this part green. So I'm just going to kind of block that color in. Okay, maybe I want to do it, green, red, green, red, green. So I'm going to come to this other part, this middle part here, in between the two stripes that I did. Now I'm going to work on coloring that. So just kind of outline it, especially where parts might be, touching and stuff like that. I might have to dip back into my paint, back into my water cups a couple times while I'm doing this. When you start to hear the brush and it starts to sound scratchy against your paper, that's when you know you need more water. It doesn't have enough water to really smooth out that paint. Okay, and then there's this part of the bulb down here. You can kind of see peeking out. So there I have my green. Now I said I was going to do these ones red, but again, like the polka dots, if I go ahead and start painting that in with the red, these colors are going to blend together. I don't want that. So I'm going to let that one dry. I'm going to move on to a different one. So I'm going to move on to one that's not touching one of those that are wet. So maybe I'll move to this one here. Okay, so I think I'm going to do this blue with white stripes. So I've already cleaned up my brush really well, make sure there's no green left on it, because if there is, it's going to get mixed in with my blue. So then I'm going to take my blue and again just kind of outline those areas of the bulb. I'm going to outline those areas and my little curls. And start to just lay in that color. And you want, more water than you do paint, because you can always add paint. It's kind of hard to add water to kind of loosen things up once you get it on there. So I'm going to go around my curves there. My brush has got a couple bristles that are coming out. Go around this curve. This is why it's better to do kind of like bigger designs. So like big stripes and like big polka dots and stuff like that. It makes it easier to paint because it gives you larger areas. Your brush that you have in there, I mean, it's a decent size. But if you try to do too much detail in there, you're going to hate this part of the painting process. So kind of like the bigger you make your designs, the easier it's going to be. The easier it's going to be to paint them and be able to do that. So I'm going to keep working on my blue here in this bulb. Again, just kind of outline around that curve of the curl that I drew. And do the same thing like for the curve of the bulb. And then if there is something on there that you want painted white, then you need to actually paint it white. Don't just leave it the white of your paper. You do have a white in your color pack. Since you have brand new watercolor packs, it should have no other colors in it. It has not been tampered with. Okay, so I'm not going to paint these swirls because everything on this bulb around those swirls is wet. So then I'm going to move on to another bulb. So by this time, this one's probably dry. Okay, I could at least maybe start on this one up here. So just make sure that as you're painting and as you're doing these, you're allowing yourself, time for these to dry. Like my green's still a little wet. I can see it kind of wet in areas, so I don't want to paint anything close to this one. This one I just did, so I don't want to paint any of these ones here. So my next set is probably going to be up in this area. I like to have all of these painted before I see you guys, just because they all have to be dry before we move on to the next step. And then we'll also talk about, what color to paint the little toppers and stuff like that. So I'm going to leave this for now. I'm going to finish painting mine here at my desk, and then I'll record on for the next step from there.